Merritt Island, Florida, home of the Kennedy Space Center and known as the boating capital of Brevard County, Florida. Whether you are a computer tech or an engineer that works at the Kennedy Space Center, a boater, or just someone that wants to retire along the east coast of Florida, Merritt Island could be a great destination for you. In this video, I'm going to go over my top 5 pros and cons of what it's actually like to live in Merritt Island, Florida. The traffic, the schools, the shopping, the housing, and much, much more. If you're considering a move to this beautiful waterfront area, and yes, it does look like this in Merritt Island, then you need to see this video. Let's do it. Welcome to the Living in Melbourne, Florida channel. My name is David Jelinek. I'm a local real estate agent here in the Melbourne, Florida area, which is also known as the Space Coast. Please know that I make videos that are all about the Melbourne, Florida area, what it's like to live here, what it's like to work here, what it's like to play here. The food, the beaches, the real estate, the entertainment, and much, much more. I've lived in this area for over 40 years, so I know it very well, and I want to tell you the story about Melbourne, Florida. Won't you consider hitting that like button, hit that subscribe button, click that little bell. That way you'll be notified every time I drop a new video just like this about Melbourne, Florida. And hey, I'm getting contacted every day from people all across the country. People who are considering a move to the Melbourne, Florida area, and I absolutely love it. However you decide to contact me, please know that when it comes to making a move to the Melbourne, Florida area, I've got the information, I've got the experience, and I've got your back. Let's do it. Now, Merritt Island is located about an hour's drive east of Orlando. It is 42 miles long north to south and extends from the Volusia-Brevard County borderline south to Melbourne. Merritt Island is located between the Indian River, the Banana River, and the Mosquito Lagoon. These three bodies make up the Indian River Lagoon, which is one of the most biodiverse estuaries in the Northern Hemisphere and is home to more than 4,300 species of plants and animals. And it's these waters that make Merritt Island the boating capital of Brevard County and a very unique place. Okay, so let's get on to my pros and cons for living in Merritt Island, Florida. And my number one pro for living in Merritt Island, Florida is the fact that it's the boating capital of Brevard County. So what do I mean by the boating capital, boating paradise of Brevard County? Well, it's the fact that in Merritt Island, there are so many different residential properties where you can house a boat right there on your property, drop it in the water, and get it out into the river system. There are canal front homes, there are riverfront homes directly on the Indian River and the Banana River. There are homes on Sykes Creek, and there are homes on Newfound Harbor. In some of these residential neighborhoods that have canals, 80 to 90% of the homes actually have a boat dock or a boathouse where you can drop your boat right into the water and get it out into the river system. So most of these canals in Merritt Island will accommodate a boat 25 to 30 feet long, sometimes even bigger, and will allow you to get out of these canals into the river system. Now, if you have a bigger boat that needs a little bit more depth, then yes, you might need to get somewhere where it's more direct riverfront, where the depth is a little bit deeper. But there are so many opportunities in Merritt Island with residential properties to house your boat right at your property. Now, if you don't live in Merritt Island, you can still use one of their many public boat ramp accesses to get your boat out into the river system. And the next special thing is that if you want to go out to the ocean, right there in North Merritt Island on the Barge Canal, you can get your boat from the river system out into the ocean using the Barge Canal. The only other access from the river to the ocean in Brevard County is down at Sebastian Inlet, which is quite a few miles to the south, but those will both get you out to the ocean if you desire to do so. Okay, so I know you're curious now, what do these canal front homes, what do these direct riverfront homes in Merritt Island cost? So at the lower end, you can get a canal front home in Merritt Island for about $300,000. That's the lower end for a older, smaller home in Merritt Island that's on a canal. And of course, they can run up to $1 million plus on a canal front. With the average canal front home in Merritt Island running probably in the $700,000 to $800,000 range. For direct river, of course, it's going to be much more. The average direct river is about 1.5 million, with that ranging again from about 500,000 up to about 5 million. So there are many opportunities, as I had mentioned, and that gives you kind of a perspective as to what the cost would be for a waterfront home in Merritt Island, Florida. Now, the next pro of living in Merritt Island, Florida is closely related to the boating, and that's the outdoor lifestyle that you have on Merritt Island. There are so many parks, public parks that are scattered throughout Merritt Island that you can go to that either are ball fields, soccer fields, football fields, tennis courts, you got pickleball courts. There's just so many outdoor activities. There's playgrounds. And of course, as I mentioned, you have your public boat ramps, you have marinas. There are just so many parks along Merritt Island. And of course, at the very end or the northern end of Merritt Island, you have the Merritt Island National Wildlife Refuge, which is a great place to go around hiking and just seeing nature and the old Merritt Island landscape itself up there. So again, the outdoor parks in Merritt Island, as they are throughout Brevard County, are just fantastic. Just a lot of places to explore, hiking, fishing, boating, playing. You have it all in Merritt Island, Florida. Okay, so let's talk about a few of the negatives or the cons for living in Merritt Island, Florida. The number one to me is traffic. So the potential traffic problems that can occur in Merritt Island. As you can see, there are few major thoroughfares through Merritt Island. Merritt Island is long and thin in most areas. So from east to west, you have the beach line 528, you have 520 to its south, major thoroughfares running through Merritt Island. If those get congested, that easily backs up everything, and it will happen during rush hour, morning and evening at times. Also north-south, you have Courtney Parkway, which is State Road 3, which turns into South Tropical Trail in the south, and then you have North Banana River Drive there to the eastern side of Merritt Island. So you can see that if there's any kind of road repair, accidents, or events happening, such as launches at the Space Center, or if there's other parade events or just a lot of things going on for holiday traffic, it's easily to back up there. And okay, so we're not talking about Chicago or Miami backup traffic, but for here, if you're backed up for 5 or 10 minutes, it feels like an hour-long traffic snarl. So for here, you will get a little bit more backup in traffic just because of the narrowness of the thoroughfares through town. You can take the side street, but that doesn't usually help too much. So traffic is a minor con for living in Merritt Island, Florida. Okay, another con to me is the relative diminishing of shopping. So I've lived here for almost 40 years. And Merritt Square Mall was always one of the top 2 or 3 destinations of shopping in Brevard County. Well, all mall life has diminished over the last 10 years or so due to the online shopping of Amazon and everything else. So the Merritt Square Mall has diminished in its impact of shopping. It is the cornerstone of shopping in Merritt Island. It's not to say there are other very nice places to shop around town. You got the Walmarts, you got the Targets, you got all those sort of things, you got other boutique shops and everything else that are there. You have the Office Depots, you have things like that. You have some very fine, nice restaurants in Merritt Island as well. But to me, the shopping is a little bit more limited. The bigger, more popular shopping now is in Viera with the avenues and other areas that are growing out on the mainland. So to me, it's a slight negative in that the shopping is a little bit more diminished these days than it has been over the last, say, 10, 20 years ago. Okay, I can't do any pro and con video for Florida without mentioning the weather. So again, Florida is the vacation capital of the world, and a lot of it's due to the weather, of course. We have great weather, although it's hot weather during the summer. So during the summer months, which is about 6 months out of the year, you're going to have temperatures around 90 or greater with humidities that are in the 80% or greater. So it's hot and humid. You have to get used to that to like it here in Florida. The winters are the best here, which last for maybe 2 months, give or take. Temperatures in the 70s, sometimes a little bit lower, and lows in the 50s or so. We generally get in this area about 2 to 3 days where the temperature drops below freezing for a portion of that day. So the weather is great, but the negative is that we do get storms, and we tend to get a storm that affects us every year or two here. We actually had 2 this year that came through and affected us. So Merritt Island does get affected. It's on a barrier island, although it's actually a peninsula. Merritt Island sometimes will get evacuated. So you do get affected by storms now and then, but the fortunate thing about hurricanes is you get a little advance notice, you can board up your homes, you can prepare, you can evacuate if needed. So to me, the pros outweigh the cons there, but you do have the negativity of occasionally a storm affecting us and putting us through that worry. Okay, let's go over my last couple cons of living in Merritt Island, Florida. And to me, one of the biggest cons of living in Merritt Island, Florida is the fact that most of the homes are older homes. So 80% of the homes in Merritt Island, Florida were built prior to 1990. So what does that mean? Well, in many regards, the older homes, I think, were built better than the newer homes today. But at the older homes, you get lower ceilings. You get 8, 9, 10-foot ceilings. Many of the homes have lower ceilings, not all, but many. You have to look at the possibility of cast iron piping, aluminum wiring, outdated or recalled electrical panels, and just older building techniques. But that's why you have somebody like myself. If you're buying an older home, we know what to look for, we know what to check. The good thing is that those things can be repaired, they can be updated, and many have been in Merritt Island. So if you're looking for a newer home, they are out there. But again, most of the homes in Merritt Island are older homes, and you just have to inspect them and look for them if you're buying one of those. Okay, a couple other negatives that go along with living in Merritt Island, and goes along with the older homes. That's the fact that most of the utilities, the power lines are above ground. So of course that makes it a little more hazardous to flying debris and storms to bring these power lines down. So your power can be more susceptible to going off a little more often in Merritt Island. And other things such as evacuations are also more of a possibility in Merritt Island as well as on the barrier island. So the reason for that is, of course, you have a couple of bridges, you have causeways to go over to get back to the mainland. So if something were to happen there, which would then restrict access back and forth to Merritt Island, that's why they would call for evacuation potentially. Now, Merritt Island has had a couple of mandatory evacuations in the last, say, 20 years. We just had one voluntary evacuation earlier this year when Hurricane Ian came through. And now the evacuations are generally voluntary. If they are mandatory, it means that they want you to leave, and we suggest that you leave. However, some people decide not to leave on mandatory evacuations, and what that means is that if you have to cry for help to 911, no one is coming if you're under a mandatory evacuation, because that means the personnel can't get there. So, and then the last thing is that the Merritt Island has flood areas. It's about probably almost 50-50 when it comes to flood zones. So if you have financing, you're going to have to get flood insurance if you're in one of these flood areas, flood zone areas. If you don't have financing, then it'll be an option whether you want to get flood insurance or not. But so it's 50-50 when it comes to that. And if you have to get flood insurance, or if you want to get flood insurance, it's going to depend on your elevation, and that could range anywhere from $300 per year up to a couple $1,000s per year, depending on how high the elevation of your foundation of your house is. Okay, another thing negative for Merritt Island is the fact that your insurance is going to be higher. Now, in Florida, we're having a bad problem with insurance rates, policies, and premiums right now throughout the whole state. But Merritt Island tends to be a little bit higher because, again, you're not on the mainland. But right now, insurance premiums for Florida tend to be 2 or 3 times higher than they are in many parts of the country. That is another thing that we will help you in your purchase to get the lowest possible insurance. That is a whole new topic that I have videos for, are the insurance, and that's evolving every day. But it is a problem, not only in Merritt Island, it's a problem everywhere when it comes to insurance premiums. So expect your homeowner insurance to be a little higher than what you're probably paying if you're not living in Florida right now. Okay, let's go on to my last few pros for living in Merritt Island. The next pro is the fact that your property taxes are lower than most of the cities in Brevard County. So Merritt Island actually isn't a city, it's not a town, it's an unincorporated area. So the unincorporated taxes, the Brevard County taxes, the millage rate is generally lower, or it is lower than it is for most cities in Brevard County. As you can see, the millage rates for the different communities around Brevard County. So that is a positive in that your property taxes will be lower. And then the next, and was one of the more important pros for living in Merritt Island, Florida, is the fact that they have very good schools. So most of the schools are rated A. There's a couple that are rated B and one that's rated C, but most of the schools are rated as excellent A schools. And another important feature of Merritt Island is this, that the town of Merritt Island just has great community pride, not only in their schools, but just in everything they do there. I always admire that. They have very good community camaraderie and support when it comes to their schools, when it comes to all their activities that are done throughout the community and the towns there. And you'll find that too when you live in Merritt Island, you become a Merritt Islander. So again, there's some great benefits for living in Merritt Island, Florida. There's always a few cons, but in my opinion, the pros outweigh the cons for living in Merritt Island, Florida. If you're considering a move to this beautiful area, give me a call, shoot me a text. I've sold hundreds and hundreds of homes in Merritt Island, and I can do it for you. I can protect your interests. get you the best deal, and make sure you find the right area. Again, thanks for watching my video. We'll see you on the next one.